The massive human warship floated silently against the backdrop of stars, its hull bearing the marks of what appeared to be centuries of space travel. Solar radiation had weathered its outer plating to a dull gray, and impact craters from micrometeorites dotted its surface like ancient battle scars. To the untrained eye, it looked like nothing more than a relic of humanity's early ventures into space. Senior observer Kelzar of the Vangari Diplomatic Corps adjusted his crystalline viewing lens, mandibles clicking in barely contained amusement as he studied the vessel. His own ship, the Light of Dawn, gleamed like polished diamond in the starlight, its advanced metamaterials refracting the dim illumination into cascading patterns of iridescent beauty. "Remarkable, isn't it?" he transmitted to his aide. "They keep these outdated vessels in perfect orbital positions, maintained like treasured artifacts. The human's sentimental attachment to obsolete technology is almost endearing." His aide's response carried the diplomatic equivalent of a smirk. "Perhaps we should offer them one of our decommissioned cruisers. It would be a significant upgrade to their current fleet." The human military vessel, designated as HFY Sci-Fi, continued its silent vigil at the edge of the Arcturus system. Similar ships dotted human space, positioned at strategic points throughout their territory. The Vangari had encountered dozens of them during their initial survey of human-controlled systems. In the primary conference chamber aboard the Light of Dawn, Kelzar prepared for another round of diplomatic discussions. The human representatives sat across the crystalline table, their expressions carefully neutral as holoprojections displayed the positions of their defense fleet. "We remain concerned," Kelzar began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into smooth English, "about your ability to maintain security in this sector. Our preliminary analysis suggests your current fleet would be insufficient against modern threats." Ambassador Sarah Chen smiled politely, her weathered face displaying the patience of one who had heard such concerns before. "We appreciate your consideration for our safety, Senior Observer. However, we find our current defensive capabilities adequate for our needs." A junior Vangari analyst interrupted, his excitement overriding diplomatic protocol. "But your ships still use visible heat radiators. We haven't needed those since we developed quantum cooling centuries ago." Chen's smile never wavered. Traditional solutions often have hidden advantages. Later, in his private chamber, Kelzar reviewed the day's intelligence reports. The humans' stubborn reliance on seemingly outdated technology puzzled him. Their civilian vessels displayed reasonable technological advancement, yet their military ships appeared to be preserved in technological amber. "Forward this assessment to High Command," he instructed his ship's communication system. "Human military capabilities rated at Category 3, limited threat. Their dedication to maintaining obsolete warships suggests either resource limitations or cultural stagnation. Recommended approach: continued diplomatic engagement with emphasis on technological assistance programs." As the report transmitted across space, Kelzar watched another human vessel through his viewport. Its massive form eclipsed a distant star, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw something shimmer beneath its weathered surface, like scales shifting under the skin of a sleeping predator. He dismissed the notion as a trick of the light. In her quarters aboard the orbital station, Ambassador Chen reviewed Kelzar's leaked assessment. The corners of her mouth turned up slightly as she sent a single encrypted message to Earth Command. "Assessment received. Perception maintained. Operation Sleeping Dragon remains on schedule." Throughout human space, ancient warships continued their silent vigil, their worn exteriors masking secrets that would remain hidden until the right moment. Like pieces on a cosmic chessboard, they waited patiently for the game to begin, their true nature concealed beneath carefully crafted layers of deception. The stars wheeled overhead, bearing witness to humanity's greatest act of misdirection, hiding their strength in plain sight, waiting for the day when their enemies' presumptions would become their undoing. 3 strike fleets dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight into deadly prismatic displays. They appeared above humanity's outer colony worlds. New Darwin, Hawking's Hope, and Nova Geneva. Each fleet carried enough firepower to reduce a civilization to atoms. Fleet Commander Zextal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Spear, mandibles raised in anticipation. Begin the liberation of these systems. Minimal casualties. We're here to demonstrate superiority, not barbarism. The first shots lanced out across the void, energy beams precisely targeting the colony's minimal orbital defenses. Antiquated satellites and defense platforms dissolved under the barrage, offering no more resistance than dewdrops under a plasma torch. In his command chair, Zextal clicked in satisfaction. As expected, their defensive capabilities are exactly as our intelligence suggested. Proceed with the next phase. But something wasn't right. Lieutenant Ixel, monitoring communications, tilted her head in confusion. Commander, the human response. It's irregular. Explain. No panic, sir. No emergency broadcasts. No pleading for mercy. She adjusted her crystalline sensors. Instead, I'm intercepting encrypted transmissions. They're using what appears to be obsolete quantum channels. But she paused. The volume of data is enormous. On New Darwin, Governor Elena Santos sat in her underground command center, watching the Vangari ships approach on holographic displays. Her fingers danced across the control panel, inputting a series of commands that hadn't been used in over 50 years. Lazarus Protocol initiated. She spoke into her secure communicator. Authorization sequence. Phoenix Rising. Similar scenes played out on the other two colonies. Each governor, each military commander, calmly executing pre-planned sequences as if they had rehearsed for this moment their entire lives. Aboard the Crystal Spear, alarms began to sound. Multiple energy signatures detected. Lieutenant Ixel reported, her voice rising. The dormant human vessels. They're powering up. Zextal leaned forward. Impossible. Those relics couldn't possibly. His words died as the sensors revealed the truth. The ancient human warships were awakening. What had appeared to be rust flaked away from their hulls like autumn leaves, revealing surfaces that seemed to drink in light itself. Weapon ports that had appeared welded shut centuries ago smoothly cycled open, revealing systems that made his tactical officers gasp in disbelief. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, those aren't obsolete weapon mounts. I don't even know what they are. In high orbit above New Darwin, the HSS Valley Forge's systems came fully online for the first time in 50 years. Its hull, previously seemingly pitted by space debris, now displayed its true nature as the impacts sealed themselves, advanced nanomaterials flowing like quicksilver to restore the pristine surface beneath the carefully crafted disguise. Governor Santos smiled as green status indicators filled her display. All ships, execute protocol Waking Dragon. Authorization code. Sleeping Giant. The Vangari fleet detected a massive energy surge from the human vessels, but their sensors couldn't identify its nature. It was as if the ships were somehow drawing power from dimensions their scientists had never even theorized about. Impossible, Zextal muttered. Their technology was primitive. We saw their ships. We scanned them. Sir, Lieutenant Ixel's voice shook slightly. Incoming transmission from the human governor. Santos's voice filled the Vangari command deck, calm and almost gentle. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. Thank you for your predictability. Now shall we discuss the terms of your withdrawal, or would you prefer a demonstration? Throughout human space, ancient warships stirred to life, shedding their disguises like butterflies emerging from chrysalises. The game of deception was ending. The real battle was about to begin. The HSS Valley Forge's transformation continued to unfold in the silence of space. What had appeared to be battle damage and age-worn plates shifted and flowed like liquid metal, revealing weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. The ship's hull now rippled with patterns that seemed to bend the very starlight around it. Commander Zextal watched in stunned silence as his tactical display struggled to maintain a lock on the human vessel. One moment it appeared to be a kilometer to port, The next it seemed to dance between his sensor arrays like smoke in the wind. "Status report," he demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. His science officer's crystalline appendages trembled as she responded. "Sir, the human ships, they're utilizing technology we've only theorized about. Their hull composition is changing at the quantum level. Every scan we perform returns different results." On the bridge of the Valley Forge, Captain Sarah Chen, who had shed her diplomatic role like an ill-fitting coat, stood at the command station. Holographic displays surrounded her, showing the positions of both fleets with perfect clarity. Unlike the Vanguard's confused sensors, human systems had no trouble tracking the crystalline ships. "All vessels, execute battle pattern Odysseus," she commanded. "Remember your training. Everything we've prepared for begins now." The human fleet moved with impossible grace. Ships that had appeared decrepit and immobile now accelerated with devastating speed, their movements synchronized like dancers in a deadly ballet. What the Vanguard had dismissed as outdated radar dishes unfolded into arrays of quantum sensors. Ancient missile tubes revealed themselves as housing for weapons that bent space itself. Lieutenant Ixel's voice cracked as she reported to Zextal. "Sir, 3 of our forward picket ships just vanished. No debris, no energy signature. They're just gone. The human vessels didn't even fire. They just gestured at them." "Impossible." Zextal slammed his appendage against his command chair. "These are primitive vessels. We saw them. We studied them for years." "Correction." Chen's voice came through on all frequencies, calm and measured. "You saw what we showed you. Those studies you performed. We monitored every scan, analyzed every probe. Each piece of data you gathered was carefully crafted to reinforce your assumptions." Above Nova Geneva, a Vanguard cruiser fired its main battery at what appeared to be an invulnerable human destroyer. The energy beam passed harmlessly through the vessel as if it were a hologram. The destroyer's response was devastating, a precise pulse of energy that caused the cruiser's crystalline hull to resonate at its exact fragmentation frequency. The mighty warship shattered like glass in an opera house. "How?" Zextal demanded. "How did you hide this level of technology?" "Patience," Chen replied. "Centuries of patience. While you built mighty fleets to display your power, we built something far more valuable, a facade of weakness. Every outdated system on our ships served 2 purposes: maintaining our image of technological stagnation while housing capabilities far beyond your understanding." The Valley Forge approached the crystal sphere, its hull now gleaming with an inner light that seemed to draw strength from the darkness of space itself. Weapon ports that had appeared rusted shut now housed arrays of devices that made the Vanguard's most advanced sensors report impossible readings. "Your entire attack plan," Chen continued, "was based on data we fed you over decades. Every weakness you thought you discovered was carefully crafted. Every flaw in our defenses was meticulously designed to draw you in exactly as you have done." Across 3 star systems, humanity's sleeping fleet had fully awakened. Ships that had played the role of ancient sentinels for generations now revealed their true nature as the most advanced warships ever constructed by human hands. The deception was over. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had chosen the perfect moment to reveal its strength. The first true battle between the fleets began in the space above New Darwin. The Vanguard battle line, still maintaining rigid formation despite their shock, launched a coordinated strike against the HSS Valley Forge. Hundreds of energy beams converged on the human vessel's position, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Captain Chen watched the incoming barrage with calm attention. "Execute defensive pattern Beta 7. The Valley Forge's response defied physics as the Vanguard understood it. The ship's hull rippled like water, and the devastating energy barrage passed through the space it had occupied, finding nothing but empty void. The vessel seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, each version equally real and equally untouchable. "Quantum state manipulation," Chen explained over the still-open channel to the crystal sphere. While you perfected your energy weapons, we learned to dance between moments of existence. In his command chair, Zextol watched his fleet's most powerful attack disappear into nothingness. Impossible. The energy readings from your ships, they were minimal, passive. Of course they were, Chen replied. We kept our quantum cores in a dormant state, letting you see only the surface power systems. The real technology lay sleeping beneath, waiting for this moment. The Valley Forge's response came not as a single attack, but as a cascading series of precise strikes. Points of light bloomed across its hull, and suddenly a dozen Vangari ships found their crystalline structures transmuting into entirely different molecular arrangements. Lieutenant Ixel's sensors screamed warnings. Commander, they're not just firing weapons, they're rewriting the fundamental forces around our ships. Across the battlefield, humanity's fleet demonstrated capabilities that made their previous appearance as outdated vessels seem like a child's trick. Ships phased through solid matter, split into multiple quantum states, and wielded weapons that treated the laws of physics as polite suggestions rather than immutable rules. The human vessels moved with impossible precision, their actions coordinated by quantum-entangled artificial intelligence systems that had spent decades running combat simulations. Each maneuver flowed seamlessly into the next, as if the entire battle had been choreographed centuries in advance. In orbit around Hawking's Hope, a squadron of Vangari destroyers attempted to retreat, their crystalline hulls vibrating with fear. The human response came not from weapons, but from space itself. The quantum wake of the human ships created patterns of interference that trapped the Vangari vessels in a maze of their own fractured reality. You see, Chen continued, her voice carrying across all frequencies, while you watched our primitive ships age in space, they were actually evolving. Each day of apparent decay was another day of quantum computation, another day of learning, growing, preparing. The Valley Forge demonstrated this truth by seemingly splitting into 3 identical vessels, each operating in perfect synchronization. The Vangari sensors couldn't determine which was real, because in a quantum sense, they all were. Your entire society is built on the idea of displaying strength, Chen explained as her ship danced through another barrage of Vangari fire. We built ours on the art of hiding it. Every vessel in our fleet is a quantum computer disguised as a primitive warship, running simulations and calculations that your scientists haven't even dreamed of yet. Zextol watched as his fleet's formations crumbled in the face of technology they couldn't understand. Ships that had dominated dozens of space-faring races found themselves helpless against an enemy that seemed to ignore the very foundations of reality. The greatest victory, Chen concluded, as the Valley Forge's quantum field began to reshape the space around the crystal sphere, is the one where your enemy never sees your true strength until it's too late. The stars themselves seemed to bend as humanity's fleet revealed the full extent of their capabilities, leaving the Vangari to face the devastating consequences of their gravest miscalculation. The quantum processors aboard the HSS Valley Forge hummed with decades of accumulated battle data as they coordinated the human fleet's movements. Every Vangari tactic, every formation, every response had been cataloged, analyzed, and countered long before the first shot was fired. Pattern mesh confirmed, the ship's combat intelligence reported to Captain Chen. Enemy fleet attempting to execute the crystalline spiral defense formation. Counteraction already prepared. Chen nodded, watching as the Vangari ships desperately tried to regroup. Execute Protocol Cassandra. Let's show them why we spent 50 years studying their every move. The human fleet split into precise formations that seemed random to Vangari sensors, but represented the culmination of millions of simulated encounters. Each ship knew not only where the enemy was, but where they would be, their movements predicted by quantum algorithms that had spent decades learning the intricacies of Vangari combat doctrine. Aboard the Crystal Spear, Commander Zextol watched in horror as his fleet's most sophisticated defensive patterns were countered before they could even fully form. How were they anticipating every move? Even our encrypted tactical updates. Your encryption was impressive. Chen's voice came through once again. But our quantum systems broke it 43 years ago. Every cultural exchange program, every diplomatic meeting, every shared technology conference, they were all opportunities to study your methods. The Valley Forge demonstrated this knowledge by executing a perfect counter to the Crystal Spear's next maneuver before it even began. The massive human vessel phased through space in ways that made Vanguard sensors scream in protest, appearing at precisely the right point to disrupt their formation. Lieutenant Ixel's crystalline appendages trembled as she reported, "Sir, they're not just countering our attacks, they're hurting us. Every escape route we calculate is blocked before we even begin to move." In the space above Nova Geneva, a squadron of human ships executed a complex series of maneuvers that trapped 3 Vanguard cruisers in a quantum interference pattern. The crystalline vessels found themselves unable to maintain their structure as space itself seemed to resonate with frequencies calculated decades in advance. "You see," Chen explained, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. While our ships appeared to drift lifelessly in space, they were actually processing combat data. Every transmission you sent, every battle you fought with other races, every training exercise your ships performed near our sensors, it all fed into our battle algorithms. The Valley Forge demonstrated this mastery by predicting and countering a desperate attack run by a Vanguard destroyer squadron. The human vessel's quantum fields reached out, not to destroy, but to contain and redirect, using the enemy's own momentum against them with devastating precision. Each of our ships, Chen continued, carries within it a virtual model of your entire military history. Every tactic your species has ever developed, every strategy you've ever employed. We've studied them all, simulated counters to them all. Zextal watched as another formation of his ships fell into a trap that seemed to have been laid centuries ago. "This is impossible. No one could predict combat with such precision." "Not predict," Chen corrected. "Prepare." While you saw aging ships, you were actually watching the galaxy's most sophisticated learning systems at work. Every moment of apparent inactivity was another moment of computation, another scenario analyzed, another counter-strategy perfected. The battle continued to unfold like a vast, complex dance whose steps had been rehearsed 1,000,000 times in virtual space. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, each action flowing seamlessly into the next, while the Vanguard fleet found itself increasingly trapped in patterns of their own making. The stars bore witness to a victory 50 years in the planning, as humanity's patience and preparation proved more powerful than any weapon in the Vanguard arsenal. The battle above Hawking's Hope revealed new layers of human deception. With each passing moment, what had appeared to be simple maintenance drones drifting around the obsolete human ships now emerged as autonomous combat units, their weathered exteriors concealing quantum-linked swarm intelligence. "Remarkable, isn't it?" Captain Chen's voice carried a note of pride as she addressed the increasingly desperate Vanguard commander. "Even the dust on our hull serves a purpose. Those particles your sensors detected, microscopic quantum sensors, gathering data on your ships for decades." Commander Zextal watched in mounting horror as his fleet's greatest technological advantages were systematically neutralized. The crystalline resonance fields that had made Vanguard ships nearly invulnerable found themselves matched against frequencies calculated to exploit their exact harmonic weaknesses. "Sir," Lieutenant Ixel reported, her voice trembling, "we're detecting energy signatures from their hull plating itself. The oxidation patterns we observed, they're not damage at all. They're disguised computational surfaces." The HSS Valley Forge demonstrated this truth as sections of its hull transformed, revealing that what had appeared to be random patterns of wear were actually vast arrays of quantum processors. The ship's entire surface was a massive computing system, hidden beneath a carefully crafted veneer of age and decay. "Your scientists wrote papers about our primitive thermal management systems," Chen explained as her ship executed another impossible maneuver. "Those exposed radiator fins you mocked, quantum field generators, designed to look exactly like outdated technology. Every piece of our ship serves multiple purposes: defense, computation, and deception. In orbit around New Darwin, a squadron of Vanguard ships attempted to exploit what appeared to be a vulnerable section of the human defense grid. They found themselves caught in a trap centuries in the making, as dormant satellites revealed themselves to be nodes in a vast quantum network. The beauty of perfect patience, Chen continued, is that it gives you time to layer your deceptions. Everything you see has at least 3 purposes. That communications array you dismissed as obsolete. It's also a gravity lens and a quantum entanglement hub. The Valley Forge's hull rippled again, and suddenly the space around it seemed to fold in ways that made Vanguard sensors shut down in self-defense. What had appeared to be battle damage transformed into geometric patterns that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Even now, Chen's voice carried across the battlefield. You're not seeing everything. Each revelation is carefully calculated, each capability revealed at precisely the right moment. We've spent generations perfecting the art of strategic disclosure. Zextol watched as another formation of his ships fell victim to weapons that shouldn't exist, their crystalline hulls shattered by forces that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Your entire civilization, everything we thought we knew, was exactly what we wanted you to see, Chen finished. Your cultural archives praised human innovation while dismissing our outdated military. Your analysts wrote treatises about our technological stagnation. Every conclusion you reached was shaped by data we spent centuries crafting. The battle continued to unfold like a vast puzzle box, each moment revealing new complexities. What the Vanguard had dismissed as primitive point defense weapons revealed themselves as quantum manipulation arrays. Outdated sensor pods transformed into reality warping devices that turned space itself into a weapon. Remember this lesson, Chen said as her fleet continued its inexorable advance. True strength lies not in what you show, but in what you choose to hide. While you built mighty fleets to display your power, we built something far more valuable: the perfect disguise. The stars themselves seemed to dim as humanity's ships revealed more of their true nature, each vessel a testament to generations of patience, planning, and the understanding that the greatest weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. The Vanguard fleet's coordination finally shattered as the full scope of humanity's deception became clear. Ships that had moved with crystalline precision, now scattered like leaves in a solar wind, each captain desperately seeking escape from an enemy they could no longer comprehend. Signal from the Vanguard High Command, Lieutenant Ixel reported, her voice barely a whisper. They're ordering a full retreat from human space. Commander Zextol stood motionless on his bridge, watching as the HSS Valley Forge systematically dismantled another squadron of his finest ships. Not through destruction, but through precise applications of technology that turned their own defensive systems against them. You never wondered, Captain Chen mused over the still-open channel, why we maintained diplomatic relations for so long. Why we eagerly shared cultural data while keeping our military technology apparently stagnant. The Valley Forge's hull shifted again, revealing yet another layer of capability as quantum fields reached out to gently disable rather than destroy the retreating Vanguard vessels. Each touch demonstrated mastery over forces that the crystalline ship's sensors couldn't even properly detect. Every diplomatic mission, Chen continued, every cultural exchange, every trade negotiation, they all served multiple purposes. While our ambassadors discussed art and literature, our ships were analyzing your technology. While we shared historical databases, our quantum systems were mapping the foundations of your military doctrine. Above Nova Geneva, a group of Vanguard cruisers attempted a desperate breakthrough maneuver, concentrating their fire on what appeared to be a weak point in the human formation. The human ships responded by simply shifting into a quantum state that made the energy weapons pass harmlessly through them. Your entire society, Chen explained, her voice carrying no mockery, only understanding, is built on the principle of displaying strength. Your architecture, your ships, your very language, all designed to project power. We studied this. We understood it. And we used it against you." Zextal watched as another battle group fell into carefully prepared quantum snares. "You could have revealed this technology at any time. You could have dominated the galaxy. Why wait? Why maintain this deception for so long?" "Because true power," Chen replied, "lies not in domination, but in understanding. We waited until we had no choice, until you forced our hand. Every ship disabled rather than destroyed. Every crew spared rather than eliminated. These are also demonstrations of strength." The Valley Forge's next maneuver demonstrated this philosophy as it created a quantum containment field around the crystal spear, neutralizing its weapons while keeping its crew safe. The field sparkled with complex patterns that seemed to mock the Vangari's crystalline aesthetic. "Even now," Chen continued, "you're not seeing our full capabilities. This technology, these demonstrations, they're measured responses, calculated reveals. The art of showing exactly what's needed. Nothing more, nothing less." Lieutenant Ixel's sensors registered new energy signatures as more human ships emerged from quantum states, each vessel revealing capabilities that redefined what the Vangari thought possible. "Sir, they're herding our remaining ships back toward our territory. Consider this." Chen's voice remained calm as her fleet executed the complex containment maneuver. "Every piece of technology we're showing you now was developed generations ago. These aren't new weapons hastily unveiled. They're carefully matured systems, perfected through decades of patient refinement." The stars seemed to bend as humanity's fleet continued their precise operations, each movement demonstrating not just technological superiority, but a deeper understanding of power itself. The Vangari fleet, once proud and unstoppable, found themselves being expertly shepherded home by ships they had dismissed as relics. Victory, they were learning, came not to those who displayed the most power, but to those who knew best when and how to reveal it. 3 weeks after the battle, the peace conference convened aboard a neutral station at the edge of human space. The station's observation deck offered a clear view of the HSS Valley Forge, now displaying its true form without pretense or disguise. Its hull gleamed with an inner light that seemed to bend reality itself, no longer hiding its quantum nature beneath false age and wear. Captain Chen, once again wearing her diplomatic attire, sat across from Commander Zextal. The Vangari officer's crystalline carapace had dulled slightly, marking the stress of recent events, but his posture remained dignified. "Before we begin the formal negotiations," Zextal spoke, his translator carrying a note of genuine curiosity, "I must know, how did humanity maintain this deception for so long? Not just the technology, but the patience it required." Chen smiled, gesturing to a holographic display between them. It showed centuries of human history, conflicts and wars that had taught hard lessons. "We learned from our own past. Earth's history is filled with examples where appearing weak was more advantageous than displaying strength." The display shifted to show the first human ships that ventured into space. "When we reached the stars, we discovered something fascinating. Every advanced species we encountered proudly displayed their technological achievements. They built mighty fleets, constructed vast stations, demonstrated their power openly. As we did," Zextal acknowledged. Was our way. "But humanity chose a different path," Chen continued. "We remembered our own histories of deception and misdirection. We saw an opportunity not just to advance our technology, but to master the art of hiding it. Every ship in our fleet was designed not only to fight but to conceal its true nature." Outside the window, more human vessels dropped their ancient disguises, revealing sleek forms that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their quantum fields interacted with space itself, creating patterns that made the Vangari sensors automatically look away. "Your culture values the display of strength," Chen explained. "We learned to value the strength of concealment. While other races built ever larger ships and more powerful weapons, we perfected the technology of deception itself. Lieutenant Ixel, now serving as Dextol's aide, studied the readings from a nearby human vessel. The complexity. Every system serves multiple purposes. Even now, I suspect we're not seeing everything. You're not, Chen confirmed with a slight smile. That's another lesson we learned. Never reveal all your capabilities, even in victory. The ships you see now are showing only what's necessary for peaceful relations between our species. Sextil's mandibles clicked in what might have been appreciation. And the other races, the ones who have seen these capabilities demonstrated. The holographic display shifted to show diplomatic transmissions from across the galaxy. Other spacefaring civilizations were rapidly reassessing their understanding of human technological capabilities and their own assumptions about power itself. They're learning the same lesson. Chen said, "True strength isn't always visible. Sometimes it lies in what you choose to keep hidden, in the patience to wait for the right moment, in the wisdom to understand when to reveal and when to conceal." The stars seemed to shimmer as quantum fields from the human ships created complex patterns in space, not as a threat, but as a reminder. The Vangari delegation watched in thoughtful silence as reality itself danced to humanity's subtle manipulations. "Remember this," Chen concluded, extending her hand in the human gesture of peace, not as a defeat, but as an awakening. Your society built crystal ships to display your power. We built quantum ships disguised as ruins. Both approaches had their strength, but today marks the beginning of a new understanding between our peoples. Zextal reached out, his crystalline appendage meeting her hand in the first formal gesture of peace between their species. Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance, bearing witness to a moment when the art of concealment proved mightier than the proudest display of power.